Welcome back to Hi Fam, everybody. I am Avital and I'm here to help you to build a strong family culture. Today, I'm going to share with you one mindset hack that can completely change how you think about any particular scenario and get you back in a strong state of mind. So, when you're feeling shaken, when you're feeling victimized, when you feel like the world is unstable, like you don't know what to do, or when you yourself feel like you're broken, like you're damaged, like you have to do all this inner child work, like you must need years of therapy to break out of cycles of explosion or of anxiety, then this hack is going to be very helpful for you, I hope, as it has been for me. Now, before we get into today, I do just want to say that heavy on my heart is the terrible news out of Bondi, Sydney, Australia. And my heart goes out to the Chabad Jewish community, to the Jewish community, to the entire Australian community who is suffering from this horrific terror attack. I know terror firsthand, up close and personal, and I know how supremely destructive it really does what it says on the box. It causes terror. And so I'm just so terribly sorry, and I'm wishing a speedy recovery to all those who have been wounded. I just say that because it feels strange to go live without acknowledging it. But really, the topic of today's live has got nothing to do with current affairs, with war, with terror. And instead, we're actually going to be talking about mindset, which is my particular area of expertise. So I'm going to have a shift in the energy, and let's focus on that. So, what I want to share with you is a metaphor that I think is really, really helpful. So to do this, I'm just going to share a definition. And the definition I want to share today is of the word archaeologist. What is an archaeologist? Most of you probably already know, but in case you've forgotten, what it means is one who digs into the past, excavates remnants, and analyzes what once was. So someone who is digging, generally speaking, digging under layers of geology to discover ancient ruins, ancient artifacts, and to try to understand ancient history, to try and understand the eras that have come before us. Very cool, right? But the issue that I want to outline beyond the really, I live in Jerusalem. There's a lot of very cool archaeology here, and there's absolutely a place for it in the world of historians. But what I want to share with you today, the metaphor I want to share with you mindset-wise, is how this archaeological kind of mindset can actually seep into our self-understanding, our lives, and why it does a disservice to us. And we probably shouldn't be archaeologists, but you might be being an archaeologist right now, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. Welcome back to my channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Avital. I'm the mother of 5. I coach thousands of parents from all over the globe on how to build a strong family culture. Really, my area of expertise and my mission is family culture, is what happens within our walls, what kind of culture we create, the values, the vision, the mission, the goal, the vibes, the rituals, the routines, the words that we use, what makes us us, our family brand, if you like. And if that's something that interests you and you're like, oh, I've never heard anyone talk about that, that sounds exactly like what I want to do in my life, how I want to, raise my kids and create a family with a strong family culture, then stick around, because that is what I do. I would love it if you hit the subscribe button, if you hit the like, the notifications, and definitely leave me a comment below with your key takeaways and your questions, because I'll make my very best effort to answer them in future episodes. All right, so what has archaeology got anything to do with you, you might be asking? And here's what it has to do with you. Most of us have been conditioned to live like archaeologists, okay? What that means is that we believe that somewhere buried deep in the rubble of our past, our childhood wounds, okay, even our parental, missteps that our parents had, or even intergenerational trauma, so going back to our grandparents and our great-grandparents, lies the answer, okay? Archaeologists are often on a little bit of a it's not a wild goose chase, because they're targeted in where they dig and they're trying to discover something, but often they have, kind of fantasies of grandeur that they're going to discover. They're going to hit gold. They're going to discover some buried treasure. They're going to unearth the remains of something very, very, incredible, biblical, legendary, mythological even, and they're going to unlock that key, that mysterious key that answers the labyrinth of history and gives us, clarity of how people lived, of what happened in history, okay? And we too often believe that somewhere buried deep inside us is this answer. Like, why do I explode at my kids? Why am I always snapping at my husband? Why don't I work out when I say I'm going to work out? Why don't I live up to my own expectations? Why am I snappy? Or why am I insecure? Or why am I always worried? Why am I anxious? Those kind of questions often lead us onto an archaeological dig. And it's this elusive artifact, right, that is finally going to explain why we are the way we are. Somewhere deep in our history, it's some trauma that we've maybe suppressed and we don't know about anymore. Maybe if I dig deep enough, long enough, hard enough, if I do the work, right? If I go to enough therapy, if I do enough journaling, if I do enough meditation, if I do enough inner child self-reparenting, then I'm going to discover, I'm going to fumble and stumble upon this one thing that explains everything. Like, now I know who I am. Now I know how I am, right? We dig. And we think about the past endlessly in our society. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a student of history. I care about history. The past matters. Okay. But we think about our personal past to a narcissistic navel gazing extent that becomes obsessive and it becomes never ending. Because, in archaeology, it never ends. You can always dig more. You can always expand. You can always dig deeper. Right. So we try to think, wait, my mothering wasn't comforting enough. My father didn't understand me. There was pressure. There was pressure growing up from society to perform, to be pretty, to succeed, to please. There was rigid gender roles or rigid ideas about who I should be and how I should be. Society gave me a tangled message about what it is to be a good woman or a good mother or a good partner, right? And that promise of the archaeologist's mindset, it's kind of embedded and encoded in therapy today. Many therapists, not all, but many modes of therapists, especially things like psychoanalysis, often have that seductive draw. And the promise goes something like this. If I'm being a little bit unfair and a little bit skeptical and a little bit, extreme in my analysis of what this type of world of therapy might offer us. And I know therapy comes in all shapes and sizes, and I've benefited from therapy, and some of my best friends are therapists, and disclaimer. The truth is, I think there's a lot of good to be had in therapy. But the culture of therapy for the last couple of decades has gone along the lines of, if I just keep digging, I might hit gold. If I just keep searching, I will finally get clarity, truth, understanding, the ultimate remnants, the ultimate artifact, the ultimate discovery that's going to lead me to absolute clarity about who I am and why I behave the way I behave. And I might uncover that one magical shard that's going to finally unlock the labyrinth of my life, right? That's kind of become the promise, the archaeological mindset. Okay, the trouble with all of this, true as it may or may not be, is that digging takes decades. Digging takes decades. As I say, I live near a lot of archaeological sites. I know they are roped off for years and years and years. And teams are painstakingly brushing off items, analyzing them, sending them to the lab, cataloging them, right? And it is not, a quick fix or a quick discovery or a magic pill in any way, shape, or form. Okay, digging can take decades. It can become a full-time identity. And it rarely ends with treasure, only with more digging. And I say this anecdotally, but there is also research to back this up, that people who spend years and years in therapy, decades even, don't come out with more clarity. In fact, often their insecurities, their lack of confidence, their worries, their anxieties, their tics, their behaviors sometimes get agitated. Many couples who go to therapy do not find resolution. I know that it's skewed towards couples who are already struggling, so that's an unfair, way of reading the data, but the fact is that going and talking and digging and exploring and reflecting and discovering and validating and justifying all of my problems in all of my history rarely moves me forward. It might give me some understanding, some self-analysis, some self-awareness, which can be useful, but it might also just be decades of wasted energy going further and further down that rabbit hole without the gold or without that magical artifact to actually justify all of that work and all of those years and often all of that money spent. So I want to offer you an alternative mindset, an alternative cap to wear when you have issues and challenges and difficulties, rather than putting on the archaeologist's hat that says, where does this come from? What else lies beneath? Let me dig more. Let me dig further. Let me figure out. Let me remember. Let me try to reconstruct memories. And unfortunately, in brackets, I'll say sometimes construct memories or reframe or retell narratives in a completely new way that do or don't correlate with the truth, that can or can't be proved, that do or don't help me move forward in a way that's functional and helpful, right? So rather than having that mindset, I want to offer you the alternative mindset. And it is not an opposite mindset. It's a complementary mindset. And I think a reframe that can be really helpful. At least I found it that way for me. You could be an archaeologist, or you could be an architect. Architects also dig. Architects have to dig. They excavate just enough to understand the lay of the land and to lay strong foundations. If an architect wants to build their dream home, they still have to dig a little bit. And I use this metaphor to say that, yes, we all need to get a handle on what happened in our childhood, understand what traumas may have occurred, understand what our attachment style was, what were the norms around money and death and sex and values and religion and faith in our home of origin. How did our parents react when we disappointed them or when they got angry? And how does that correlate with how I'm reacting today? Those are useful insights to ourselves. And I don't think that we should never do any digging. Okay. A little bit of digging is good. But imagine you hired an architect to build your dream home, and they just got stuck digging. They were just digging and digging and digging and digging. They were like, maybe here there'll be gold. Maybe there there'll be gold. You might hit a treasure. And you're like, no, dude, I'm not here to dig for archaeological artifacts. I'm actually here to build my dream home. And that's what I want to say to you today, my friend. You are not here to dig in perpetuity for some elusive, mysterious piece of gold that might unlock the labyrinth of your mind. You need to dig enough to lay strong foundations, but what you're here for is to build your dream home. What you're here for is to build your dream family life, a strong family culture, a vision for the future, a way that you want to raise your kids. Never mind what Christmases looked like when I was growing up. What matters is what I want Christmases to look like moving forward in my home. Never mind how my parents treated money. I want to think about how I treat it with my children. Never mind how they treated relationships and love and sex. Now I need to build a new dream home laid on strong foundations of how I want to treat those things in the future. An architect does a bit of inner work, okay? They understand attachment patterns, core insecurities, inherited beliefs. It's incredibly important. No one's taking that away from you, and no one's saying that you don't have to do that. But then we have to put our big girl pants on. Then we have to put our architect's hat on, and we need to build. How do we build? An architect ropes off the excavation area. An archaeologist ropes off the excavation area and declare it a museum, right? They never build anything. It's a museum forever. It's stuck. It's stuck in history. It's stuck in the past. We don't move forward from there. Okay, but an architect lays that foundation and then rises above it. Architects don't dig for digging's sake. They dig with purpose so that they can build. And really, if you've been married for a little while, if you have little kids, yeah, you got to dig a little bit, but now it's time to build. You don't stay in the hole or you'll never get the dream house. You've got to climb out of it and create something magnificent on top of it. Okay. So my friend, I have popped on live here today to tell you that it's time to stop hunting for some buried treasure. And it's time to start designing, planning, and then building the future that you want. And that future starts inside your mind. It starts with a powerful, strong mindset. It starts with someone who is able to look above the hole and to see the vision of the home that can be built on top of that hole. To look a little bit to the past and then to build forward into the future. Okay, to have a clean and purposeful excavation, just enough to know what you're building on, but then to become an architect and build your next chapter. Okay, to design your identity, your home, your family culture with intention, with clarity, with strength, with vision. Okay, that's how you build your dream home, your dream future, your dream yourself, becoming a person that you like, that you're proud of, that you can get through life with, right? That works for you, that doesn't work against you in a way, a mind that works with you. So I want to show you how to build that home on hurricane-proof foundations. Okay, capable of holding the most meaningful thing in your life, which is your family. I want to show you how you become an architect of your life by having a powerful mindset that can withstand the day-to-day challenges, the day-to-day stresses, the day-to-day pressures, the day-to-day bad news that we receive, like we did yesterday. How do we build a mind that can withstand that and that can keep on keeping on, that has mental toughness and mental strength? Because an architect who just has a dream home, but the engineering doesn't work, the physics isn't there, It's not in budget. It doesn't make sense with the layout of the land. It's using materials that aren't available in this neighborhood. That's not an architect. That's a dreamer. That's someone who has fantasies, and it's someone who isn't a realist and who can't actually help you build the home that you want to build. So you can look to lots of gurus and coaches and people who are inspiring, but if they're not giving you the building blocks that you can actually apply to build your real life in your real home, in your culture, in your nationality, in your religion, in your circumstance, that's unique and idiosyncratic and personal to you, then that's not a useful architect. Architects have to be realistic. They have to be pragmatic. They have to be efficient. They have to work within a budget. They have to help you realize your dream without kind of, straying from reality. If you feel like, if you tell that metaphor hit something for me, I have been stuck in archaeology and I am ready to move to architecture, then I invite you into ALCHemize. ALCHemize is my online course where I teach mindset. It's where I help you become mentally tough, mentally strong. You will learn to become unshakable, unoffendable, unvictimized. And all of those are key characteristics, temperaments, mindsets of someone who can build their vision for the future, of someone who can actually rise above the whole of the past, dig that just enough to lay the foundation, and then make clarity, right? But that's what architects do. They create plans. They build something out of nothing. They're like, there's nothing here. Now we're going to build your dream home. How are we going to do it? Well, let me think. Let me really look at you and think, well, what kind of kitchen makes sense? What kind of living room makes sense? How many bedrooms do we really need? What's our budget? What are the materials available here? What kind of craftsman can we work with? What color palette do we want? Where are the pipes going to go? How does the second floor get held up, right? They're thinking in pragmatic terms about a dream, about a fantasy. So look, my friend, you have a dream and a fantasy of how your family should look, what kind of marriage you want, what kind of home life you want, what should dinner time look like? Are we going to do rituals? Do we have some kind of faith tradition? Are we going to do tech-free and screen-free time? Maybe observe a Sabbath? Are we going to have family vacations? Will I make albums of those family vacations? What do I do if my child lies to me or pees on the living room floor? Or what kind of food should we eat in our family? What kind of music do we listen to? What kind of games do we play? What kind of stories are we going to tell our children? How are we going to teach them right from wrong? What kind of models and role models and idols do we accept them worshiping, and which do we not accept them worshiping? What kind of exposure to which kind of influences are okay with us and which do we not accept? How are we going to teach them what it means to be a good person? Do I even have clarity in my mind of what that even means? Do I have a plan? Do I have a blueprint? Do I have a blueprint of what I'm going to be telling my child I expect from them, I'm guiding them towards in their future relationships, in their future work, in their relationship with money, with death, with sex, with religion, with faith, with other humans? If I don't have all of that clarity, I can't be the architect of my family culture. But the good news is I can help you get all of that clarity. I have several programs, and for really building your family culture, you've got to join the studio, and that opens in May, and I would love to welcome you in. But before you're ready for that, I think even more foundational will be to have a strong mindset, to not feel so shaken. Because here's the thing. Our culture today is teaching us to be archaeologists, to always look inwards, to always dig deeper, to always make a lot out of every little chip and every little, piece of broken pottery that we found. Wow, look, I thought about this memory with my mom, and I thought about this thing that happened with my dad, and I suddenly remembered that in school someone once said that I have such curly hair, and all those memories come forth. And archaeology culture is teaching us to brush each of those off and cherish them like there's some special thing, and put them in glass cabinets and display them and cherish them and look over them and make a lot of fuss over them. That's archaeology culture. It's about navel gazing. It's about obsession with things past. Architect culture is about designing forward. It's about building something beautiful and new and strong and inspiring and helpful and your dream home. And that's what I'm going to teach you inside of ALCHemize. ALCHemize is open now. We're going to kick off in January. So this is the perfect New Year's gift for yourself after you've spoiled everyone else over this holiday season. Spoil yourself. And I know holidays often bring up a lot of troubles, a lot of difficulty, right? Maybe it's about spending too much money on gifts and having fights with my husband over budgets. Maybe it's about tensions with me and my in-laws about how we raise our kids, or about how we're hosting them, or about what I'm wearing. Maybe it's about just a lot of difficulty with my ability to stay organized and executive control and function over managing all these lists and all these things to do. Maybe there's tension between me and my kids. I feel like they're not helping enough. They're not doing chores. They're not on top of schoolwork. They're too entitled. Whatever it might be, it gets triggered at the holiday season for sure. That's very, very typical and very, very common. So now is the perfect time to invest in your mindset. This is the gift you give yourself. It's not another knickknack. It's not another gadget on Amazon. This is a lifelong investment in the strength of your mind. I would love to welcome you inside. Head on over to highfam.com/ALCHemize in order to get your hands on this very powerful course. And inside it, you can also upgrade to ALCHemize Plus, where you will be invited into an intimate coaching session with me every single month for the 3 months of the ALCHemize course, so that I can really personalize this to you, answer all your questions. You can push back. No question is too, stupid or difficult, or, nothing is off the table. You can ask whatever it is that you'd like to ask, and I will answer that inside of ALCHemize. So please join me in there. Meanwhile, if you're not subscribed, make sure you are subscribed to the channel, because I will continue to go live to answer your questions. Make sure you leave those below right here on YouTube or on Instagram. Send me a DM. I will be very happy to answer it in my next episode. The best way to do that is through YouTube comments. Once again, much, much love, and keep on living that high fam life. I'll see you next time. Bye.